Welcome back to the Spiritually Kinky podcast. I am your host, Dustin Wheeler, and this is where spirit meets structure, science meets sexy, and creation becomes our motherfucking love language. And excuse me just for a minute while I turn on my light here. Hold on. There we go. All right. So I love this guest that we are going to talk with tonight. He is a very dear friend, even though we've never met in person. Met about 5 or 6 years ago. He was one of the first guests on Spiritually Kinky podcast. Thank you for that. And he's also been on Modern Day Prophets. And I'm going to let him introduce himself because he has such an range of experience that I love talking with him. And tonight we are going to talk about relationships. We're going to talk about sex. We're going to talk about relationships. We're going to talk about presence, intimacy, because I never actually get to have a male creator where we can talk about this. And he's talking about this in Perth. Is it Western Australia? And I thought you were in Denmark, but I guess there's actually a Denmark, Australia too, which I did not know. I was like, wow, he's really traveling around. So welcome, Michael Lowe. I appreciate you being here on Spiritually Kinky. And before we get started, I got a question for you. Because the first time we opened with what kind of card would you be in a deck of the 52 cards? What was your answer? Do you remember?
I think it might have been, I don't know, the number, I don't know, for some reason, 7 of hearts just came forward.
Okay, I feel like it was a 7. I don't know if it was 7 of hearts. I can't remember. But just to ask a question and to have you think for a minute. So it's been really interesting to introduce Spiritually Kinky around Grand Rapids with all of the conversations I've been having, from millionaires to homeless people to recovery. And it's really about embracing the contradictions, that we're the creative force within, and we're also this messy human being. And we get to be both. So are you feeling a little bit more spiritual tonight, a little bit more kinky tonight, or a mix of both?
Well, let's just tick all the boxes, because I'm always in those fields and out of those fields, and then craving to get back in those fields when I'm out of those fields. So
okay,
yeah, I can certainly, tick all boxes.
I love it. I love it. All right. Please introduce yourself as to your vast experience of what your life has looked like and where you are now, because even since the last conversation that we had about a year ago, it looks like there's been some amazing creations. And there was a woman in your background, Jacqueline, and I've seen her in these beautiful creations with you guys. I can't wait to hear about it. I can't wait to hear about it.
Yeah. Well, firstly, my name's Michael, and it's a real honour to be able to sit with you again, Dustin, and share wisdom and bounce reflections. And I think that to bring me into the space, I'm going to use the subject relationships to sort of identify myself. So it sort of brings me further into it. But you know, I'm a male, obviously, and I'm 45 years of age, and it's been an ongoing journey building a relationship with self. In the relationship building, it's been distorted, it's been distracted, it's had a number of things that distorts my relationship with self. And when I look at myself now and see how self manifests, I can see that all the relationships that's come into my world is to naturally take away anything that is not in truth or in integrity. And the word honesty comes forward as well. And sometimes it can be really hard to look at the parts to ourselves where we're not honest with and identify them and agree to them versus disagree to them. And in my journey where I'm at right now, as listening to my male mind and listening to my male body, I can safely say how beautiful it is, because there's been so much integration going on for Michael and in this male body and in this male mind. And it's a revolution in itself to really land as a man. I've used so many different archetypes to identify myself. I've had my spiritual psychosis where I think I'm Jesus and I'm tapping into Mary, and I've got all these things going on. And it's nice to illuminate all of these characters and land with simplicity called Michael, I am. And in that, I can feel my male body connect to nature. I can feel my male mind connecting to the ether. And I've once upon a time used, how can I say it? I've always used variations to articulate and create solutions with, but now I'm using rational thinking, and it's actually quite nice to just use rational thinking and logic thinking. I've always been so spiritual thinking and outside of the box thinking, and I love it. That's been a lot of my journey to, unpack this profile called Michael in a unique, different form, and then taking out anything that separates myself from truth has left me with quite a rational perspective and irrational logic as well. It bounces between both, but utilizing this male body has been the relationship with myself, and really coming into my nature has been this really beautiful experience. So I will give you an example. I do a lot of healing work. I've been on the path for many, many, many years. And in my healing, it was a very feminine container. And there was a lot of mothering, and there's a lot of unconditional light and so forth and so on. But what I'm have embodied now is this masculinity container, and it's very grounded and it's very earthy. And it feels very nourishing when I work with women that come to this container and can receive the hand and the love of a masculine imprint through safety and connection. And if I look at that alone, that's been the relationship with myself, is to build a container for myself through safety and my masculinity, because I've developed my femininity so strongly, but now I'm moving into my masculinity, which was underdeveloped through father wound, through poor relationship choices, all of these things that sort of, accumulate. But now I've landed in this archetype called Michael, and the relationship's beautiful.
Well, it's so interesting from what I see over here, and I apologize, it got darker. Apparently my cat didn't want the light on anymore because he turned off the light. So, but it's so interesting to me to see, because I'm paying attention really closely to people, because I'm going to pitch and train in corporations and nonprofits, and there's a theme that's going on with everybody that I see, and it's women over masculated and men in that not standing in that capacity. And you said something really interesting, and my friend kind of mirrored the same thing. Is you said that a lot of women want to be saved right now, and there's this underlying cultural marketing story and just programming of the men coming in and saving the women. And my friend kind of said the same thing, and he's, I guess, dating a couple of women. He wanted a harem, and so he got one. But he was talking, I was like, what are you seeing with women? And he holds space. He's got very good masculine space that creates that safety for women. But he doesn't hold the capacity for himself yet. Which is just interesting. But he said, he goes, I feel like women are feeling this, that sense of danger before anybody else, and he's like, they're wanting to lock it down. And I was like, okay, and he's like, they want to be with this masculine man that will save them. Interesting. It's very interesting.
It is. Yeah, there is a theme running forward in the ether, and when I look at the concept of the collectiveness in the feminine, I know there's a shout out for safety. And then that's a big word with the big umbrella and a lot of words that we're not really clear about. Because if I just look at safety, it's safe to be me, right?
Yeah.
Meaning that it's safe to have my emotions, safe to have my judgment, safe to have my misalignment, safe to be wrong, safe to be right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Oh,
then
yeah. I know
when
exactly
we
what you mean.
when we move into this atmosphere and the word safety, like it probably needs more articulation, because if I look at that and I put in masculine wants freedom, free to be me, free to have my judgments, free to feel safe to fall, free to be me, free to be wrong, free to get it right. And it's the same paradigm trying to merge. And it's almost like when we come together at the moment, we're assessing one another to see if I can have my inner needs being met. And if I look at the concept of the universe, like we always get what is it? We always get what we want, not what we need, or one of the other two runs around. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that, like, when we are merging, there is like a self-awareness that needs to show up as well, as to, with this person that I'm merging, I have to be responsible. I have to show up to my responsibility. And yes, it's really beautiful to be in the union and sharing that responsibility yourself. But I think that, like, what's really important, and in the history of both masculine and feminine, it's not the other party that made me feel unsafe. I know there's circumstances around it, but what I'm seeing right now is it's going back to self-leadership, self-ownership of, I have to be responsible for my safety. I have to be responsible for my freedom. I can't put that onto the other person. I've got to fully self-actualize in myself to
Yeah.
be responsible, to have my own back, to be able to have my voice being heard, to have
Yeah.
me show up to courage, to have me show up. Now, the thing is that we can be distorted, like I was saying in the previous introduction, of like with our relationship to self, because in the relationship to self, it's been so heavily conditioned. And when we arrive to these spaces, we can put onto the other person to have my needs being met through comfortability, lifestyle choices, finances, presentation, and beauty. And that can distort our own responsibility to self. That makes us feel unsafe. That makes us feel non-free. So if a woman chooses the man through comfort, well, of course her safety is going to be like cut. If a man chooses a woman on her beauty, of course his freedom is going to be cut, because we're not choosing from self, we're choosing for the exterior, the external. And I think that that's been a cause and effect in humanity for hundreds of
Yeah.
years.
Yeah. Well, so first off, I just launched a human development company that's trying to get into corporations, called the Human Advantage Operating System, that deals with self-empowerment and self-leadership, because
Yep.
that's where it's got to start. And so we talk about shifting into the identity of the creator, because all of the things that you're talking about, all of the wounds that we're reflecting with each other, all of the mirror and all of the entanglement and all of that is becoming, it's because we're coming from a place of creating from lack, from this knotted identity of, I'm not it, I'm not worthy, I'm not capable, I'm not perfect, I don't belong, I'm not significant. And I've twisted them a little bit. I call them shadow kinks, because I really dove into mine, and especially dealing with when Simba got sick, to letting him go, and that being the longest relationship I've ever had unconditionally in my life, who actually taught my nervous system safety. It was an experience. But we went under some real shadow kinks with that, because all of it came up as I was sitting in the storm and holding that capacity and that safety for myself when everything was unsafe around me again.
Mm.
And I think that that's really important to talk about. You talk about, articulating things in a new way, and I'm calling it, like, we need to ditch the dialogue, right? Ditch the dialogue and redefine some of these things that we're using together as well. So I don't care if you're in a relationship with your mailman, we're in a relationship, a partner relationship, whatever. It's relationship. There's the perception there. And it, we all think that we're running off of the same definitions just because they're the same
Mm.
words.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
when you start to unpack that, you're like, oh, I see, Michael, you've defined it like this, and this is how you're showing up. And I've defined it like this, and this is how I think you should show up. There was just miscommunication there. you know,
Yeah,
and I think that so much of it is just we think that we're all running off of the same definitions, which we are absolutely not. And we're all coming out of this survival identity that has all of this dialogue and these stories and all the things and the dialogue that was passed down in our DNA and all of that. And that's really being reflected right now that this is really coming to the surface. I feel like
absolutely.
I feel like a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah, it's interesting because like my mother and father were very much masculine and feminine, and then in my generation we did a shift where the women wanted to be, you know, obviously for natural causes as well, to be equal in relationships, to be equal in business, to be equal in all of this, and we saw a feminine rise into these masculinity roles, and then what I can see shifting now is a lot of women want their male to lead. They want their male to be in their masculinity. I want to be in my femininity. I keep on hearing this continuously.
Yeah.
And it's like quite interesting how we sort of jumped from one ship and going back to our other ship now,
Yeah.
which feels quite stable where it's in the naturistic, you know, it's more naturistic in that relationship form.
Yeah.
And I've always said, like, in the right relationship, you don't worry about masculine and you won't worry about femininity. It would be a blend because
Yeah.
light is nor masculine or feminine, nor
Right?
is God, nor is love, nor is respect, nor is everything that you want in your life is it's non-masculine or feminine. We're ascending to these places. So in the right
Yeah.
relationship, we become the male and the female. And it's about activating this because we are part male and part female,
Yeah. That's the whole.
you know?
That is
Yeah,
the whole. That is the whole. And it's been very
yeah.
interesting, especially being a woman that has way proven, like, let me prove that I am lovable. Let me prove that I am capable, you know. And even Michael said how smart I am because I have such a big nose. Actually, I think he said I was a know-it-all. But it's very, very true. And when you when you get to that place, at least for me, I was like, I can't even be with a masculine man right now because I'm not even receiving anything. Not, and it was so interesting. And I was like, okay, so what does it mean for me to step into my feminine? Because I've been hustle, grind, go, motivation, fire, you know, everything like that. I was like, okay, so what's this stillness all about? And I was like, whoa.
Yeah,
And it's just been interesting because it's, you know, I'm 2.5 years, well, 2 years into this conscious education work, and it's really shifted into flow. And I'm like, oh, this is what he was talking about. Like, and it's really just allowing ourselves to be willing to let go of the past and
yeah,
come at our future from a place of no innocence and choose from there and leverage your already amazing masculine and feminine creative powers because it takes both. It takes both. You need to, like, you know, build the garden, plant the seeds, and also allow it to rest and then harvest. So it takes both. So I think, you know, when we get into these arguments of like men have been through this worse or women have been through this worse, like we're just hurting ourselves because again, we're coming from that place of lack, thinking that we're not both.
yeah.
And we don't find safety in another person.
Mm-hmm.
Although there are tools and things that can help us feel safe with another
Mm-hmm.
person, that person cannot create that internal safety for us. And it
Mm-hmm. I
doesn't
agree.
matter what your outside circumstance is.
Yeah.
And this was my practice with Simba because every single story that my family line has ever had about loss came up with Simba. And I was like
Yeah.
experiencing the circumstance, but also then I would go, okay, the awareness of what is the story that I'm telling myself that's robbing me of this present moment, that's adding this additional layer of fucking suffering on it. Because what, I just want to kick myself when I'm down. And I would
Mm-hmm.
be like, wow, that's the human, like that's the mind loop that we get caught in. And we lose so much time to the dialogue, but it taught me so much about coming back and being present with him and
Yeah.
just completely fucking shattering the illusion that we have any fucking control over anything but ourselves and what we choose to create.
Yeah. I
And,
do agree.
and that was shattering. I was like, oh God. So
Yeah.
it's just go ahead.
I think that, like, relationships are very confronting because we have to take ourselves out of the martyr or the messiah and back into a student role where we're listening to our other person's journey without creating judgment. And I think in relationship as a male, and particularly if I look at the collective atmosphere pressure, there's a lot of like the male needs to lead, he needs to have a plan, he needs to have direction, and all of that is like, that's beautiful. Is that every moment of every second of the day? No, it's not. So as a male, we're coming in trying to represent this ideology to make the woman feel safe. So if we don't feel like we've got a plan, a backup plan, a financial plan, a stable situation, we actually go into a space of fear. And in the relationship, and one of the hardest things to say as a man is, I don't know. And we don't want to let down our woman. But this is another, again, an ideology of a fabricated illusion of what a divine masculine and the divine feminine is. When I hear this, I hear, okay, you're in fantasy. I'm looking for my queen, looking for my queen. Okay, you're in the fantasy because you're operating from an illusion that's different from now. You are the king, you are the queen. And even in the divine order, it's in the imperfections. It's in without a plan. It's in the fail. It's in the test. It's in the whatever's showing up. And I think that, like, when the woman is craving safety, so are men, because it's always going to revert back to childhood. Like, do you love me? And on a soul level, we seek out true romance. On a human level, when are you going to leave me? It's a fear response. And I think that, like, if we can take the gas off this illusion and just be, because I think what we've seen in society now is that, sometimes knowing too much is dangerous because we haven't activated primarily in our chakras in the lower. We haven't moved into our primal chords. We're all trying to ascend away from nature, but we've got to come back to nature. And I think that, like, it's really important that, how can I say, collaboration is the key here, but without the journey of you've got to be in your feminine and I've got to be in my masculine. If we're going to enter this code, it's going to be deshackled. I can see it coming already. So it's like, we can see quite often in social media, I meet my king, I meet my queen, and then a year later that relationship's failed. And I've been watching it carefully because, like, as we enter these relationships, the one that heals us doesn't always necessarily the one that's going to take us through the end, right? Everything's a journey and people come in and people go. So a lot of these relationships, the woman lands with this beautiful male and vice versa. They get the healing, the wounding's healed, and then the relationship fails. Not fails, but it moves on.
Yeah.
So, like, I actually can see it unraveling. Like, why are you calling this in? Like, be aware. You can call whatever you are allowed in. You know what I mean? But I think that there's also too this pressure in a relationship to heal your childhood wounding, to heal your disconnection with men, to heal all of this. And the relationship can play a part of that. It can't be the cure and the curse at the same time. And I think relationships need to be mindful of this.
Well, and I think that this is what's really interesting about the work that I got into, because it's really changing the language of around healing and fixing and improving, and it's really going to the first focal point of what would you love to create. Because if it's not coming from that future creative orientation, we're in the problem structure and we think we need to heal and fix and improve. And we'll only continue to oscillate back and forth because it's built on an untrue foundation that we're not it and we are it. So that's the identity shift that needs to happen first, is shifting from the survival into the creative, where you're now shifting from being the oldest version of your past self into the youngest version of your future self. And then when you do that, all the resistance comes up, all the stories, all the things, because your unconscious is freaking out, and then doing either neuroemotional work that rewires the nervous or rewires the neurological pathways, retrains the nervous system, resolves the resistance, and then now you're taking action from the intention that you're it instead of that you're not it. And that's what changes the results that we get. But what I've seen, and creators do this, and we create, right? We just create because we're creators. We're like the only species that does create. But when you realize and recognize and make peace with the past of, we all go through that perspective shift of creating the not it identity in these premises so that we could learn how to belong and how to stay safe. And it's just outdated programming. And when we can change the programming with like recode and changing the dialogue of it and being able to take action in a new way with conscious choice, conscious focus, we can now flow in the way of what we desire instead of what we have survived. And I'm like, yeah, because so many of our premises are just reinforcing the unconscious identity that we're broken, that we're innately defective, that we need to heal. But we're a non-form in a human body. You know, like we're a non-form attached to everything all at once, always. But we're in this human body, and we've just lost the perspective that we actually are that creative force within. And then flexing the new focus, because this is where it sucks in the beginning. When you get caught up in the story and the blah, 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 you're like, okay, what would I love to create? What is my intention? What would I love to create? What is my intention? And I know for me, the whole experience with Simba, because I got lost in the story, and I'd be like, whoa. I've been emotionally conditioned in this because I've been lost in this story of loss and all this thing. And I just think it's such powerful work because it negates all of the past, not to say that it wasn't important. It was so useful. Thank you. We're in grand design. We stayed alive, right? We made it. Fuck yeah. Not everybody did.
Yeah.
Like we made it. We just lack the conscious education that now teaches us to practically make this shift into the creator, where you just get to choose what kind of fucking relationship do you want? What kind of flavor do you want to create? And creating it that because you just love it. And then we're creating in a whole new way. We're creating like then the telephone out of nowhere. We're creating the airplane out of nowhere because we're now imagining a different way that actually gets different results that we've never created before.
It's interesting because when I hear that, and it sort of confirms me as well, is that like when I've been in the process and still always am like deconditioning myself, I look at relationships in a different form.
Yeah.
And it's a relationship to myself, like, okay, what does the relationship represent, and what do I want to call in, and what do I want to create and belong to? And that's got like a crystal, it's an ongoing crystallization thought process as well, because a lot of I see in relationships, and a lot of when I've like defucked myself, so to say, I can see that even relationships and the call in for the masculine and the feminine has also had its strong conditioning as well. And as we like deprogram ourselves, like, is the desire so strong to be in a relationship? Yes or no? It has its waves and has its moments, but being really centered in what I'm actually calling in and being not articulate, but like being like, conscious.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of what comes in, because I'm really like very aware of like when I go into my next relationship, this will play a huge part in my journey. Yeah. And I don't want to just like, I don't have the energy to gamble, because I think we've all done the gambling, you know what I mean? And the hope that it comes through good. And
I'm going all in. Let's do it.
Massively. And
it's gone all in.
And it's very common to fall in love with people's potential, versus the reality. And that is something that, we've all been a guilty and a victim of as well, when we can feel that someone loves us more if I'm this or this or I'm that, but not for
Yeah.
me, who I am right now.
Yeah.
And it's just a really interesting understanding of like how I'm actually manifesting my relationship and like how it's been manifested through self and
Yeah.
what I'm actually calling in, because I, like, again, cannot be asked with another failed relationship. And I'm not worried about it failing, but
Yeah.
going through I don't have the capacity for the shit anymore. You know what I mean?
Bullshit. Yeah. Oh
The
yeah.
bullshit. You know
Oh
what
yeah.
I mean?
Yeah. So are you clear on do you have a clear relationship choice?
Nah, because I'm not worried about
Okay.
it. No, it's not in my calling and manifestations. No.
Okay. Do you do you have clear choices of what you're trying to create right now? What are you trying to create right now?
Well, it's interesting because when I hear you say create, and what
Yeah.
comes up to me is procreate. You know what I mean? Like
Okay.
birth.
Okay.
Interesting. But it's
Well, I
funny because,
mean,
like,
we birth these bitches from imagination into reality, and it can be just as fucking painful. I will tell you,
big
creative
time.
tension. I told somebody else, I was like, there is tension in creation, and sometimes it's like being edged for 22 hours. Like the tension is so like, because you're bringing it from a place that it didn't exist before. You actually are birthing it into reality.
Straight up, right? So, like, if I look at the relationship that I'm calling in, it's the relationship with me and my universe,
Okay.
right? And listening to these codes. Now, I do believe that, like, everything's already manifested. It's a matter of I am in the new manifestations or in the relationship. So, like, when I look at the components that orbit around my universe, we got freedom, we got love, we got relationships, we got money, we got family, friends, social, the predominant environments,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So when I look at, like, when I'm crystallizing what I'm calling in is what's distorting the relationship to money. So when I say I am wealth, right, what shows up? What emotion shows up? Okay, there's anger because there's not enough wealth. Okay,
Yeah.
there's resistance to certain parts of that. So I look at parts to self and what is the resistance to echo that and, like, crystallize that.
Yeah.
And then I look at freedom. Okay, what's the emotion to I am freedom? Okay, I have freedom. Okay, there's suppression there. Okay, what's the suppression around freedom? I have family. Okay, what's the emotion? Frustration. I have friends. What's the emotion? So I'm really looking at what's orbiting around me to the emotional connections to all of these I am portals.
Okay.
Because I do believe that when we go create, everything's already created. It's the creation of self that
Yeah.
has to remember that I am already this, and it has a bond instantly towards something or
Okay.
object subject.
Okay. I have some homework for you.
Mm-hmm.
I have a menu of flavors. They're the best flavors. They're the best flavors. I'm gonna send that menu to you after the YouTube channel and let me know which 3 flavors you pick. I'm really interested to see what you pick. There's some good ones. There's some really good ones.
Great.
There's some really good ones
Fantastic.
on there. Because I think where we get stuck too is when we're, and this is really where I leverage science a lot in understanding that if we're creative force energy, energy will always follow the path of least resistance. Where you put your focus is where energy goes. Focus creates. And learning how bad I was at making choices, learning how to make true choices that would bring that resistance up and set me up in a creative structure. We started with 4 core choices, and it was really, I choose the end result of living a life I love. I choose the end result of health and vitality. I choose the end result of being the primary creator in my life, not the only creator in my life, but the primary one. And I choose to live my true nature on purpose. And when I started with those, realizing that most of my other choices about money, about relationships, about success and everything like that were all still rooted from that problem structure and that knotted identity, thinking that if I got the thing, then I would be happy. So most people, when I ask them what they want to create, they don't know. They can't tell me
Mm-hmm.
clearly. And so that lets me know that they're not actually focused on the thing that they're trying to create because they don't even know. They're focused on all of the ways that they're trying to get away from something, trying to fill something. And it's really just interesting that we do this because
Mm-hmm.
we're so problem oriented and we've been I mean, to survive. Again, it was great. It was grand design. But we're iPhone, what are we, 18s? I don't know. What's out now? iPhone 17, 18. We're still running
Yeah.
on iPhone 1 software. It's not useful
Mm-hmm.
anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say that when I do give somebody those 4 core choices, all of those 4 core choices will bring up all of the resistance. It's just
Mm-hmm.
you're not looking at the resistance first, you're setting the new GPS coordinate to something that's true. And those 4 core
Mm-hmm.
choices, I've never met anybody that said them that isn't true in them. So,
Mm-hmm.
because it kind of gets the deconditioning of all the sucky ways that we try and make bad choices.
Yep.
Because we're
Absolutely.
just taught how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
it took me about a good all the resistance, Michael, came up. I wouldn't even give myself permission to make a relationship choice because all of the programs of all of the bad things that I saw and everything, I'm like, I won't even allow myself to imagine it. And then like a year and a half later, it was like, I choose the end result of my future husband. And I was like, I think there were some unconscious parts of me that passed out when I wrote down that choice because I had never chosen before. And that just was
Yep.
like, wow, you just declared that shit. And it was a true choice. It was a true choice in me. Um, but it was just interesting because it does still bring up the resistance. It's just what you're focused on initially of what you're trying to create just because you would love to create it because you give
Yep.
yourself permission, you give yourself consent, and you surrender to how of how it's going to show up because you don't know the how. You've never created it before.
Exactly. I find that a lot of my creation at the moment, when I lean into it, is to unpack the universe and create storytelling around that, which
Yeah.
takes me on pilgrimages and goes through a somatic journey. And I'm like really got a very curious interest to the concept of God. Like that really does show up a lot for me. And
Yeah.
creating creating storytelling is something that I'm really connected to and passionate about. I think that, like, in the unpack of my universe, it's unpacking a lot of my
Yeah.
conditioning around sex, especially like finding worth in being a really good lover, being acknowledged for being a hot lover. Like, there's a lot
Yeah.
of pressure on that sex and intimacy space and wanting to provide what I thought would be a great result for the woman.
Yeah.
And then it's all this ideology where it's like I can really see so strongly now, like the conditioning is really lifting so much, and it's coming through exhaustion because we don't have the capacity at moments in times, depending on where you are in your timeline frequency, the energy to create, because we have just come out of this survival instinct, you know what I
Yeah.
mean, where we've had the relationship breakdown, we've had every almost kind of breakdown we've gone through,
Yeah.
and we have been dealing with that and facing that. And I did hear this really great thing: before we create, we heal. Yeah. And I think that that's again, like, when we decompose the conditioning and go into crystallized form, the relationship to self really starts to send these really beautiful messages about what it is that I want to create. And a lot of creation for mankind's peace. We can see an upheaval of like disturbance right now. And I think that a lot of calling for a lot of people is just to be peaceful in their skin and in their body. And I can relate to that in so many ways because, like, again, in the collective field with what a man should do, that's another part, like another point of pressure. You know what I mean? Even
Mhm.
the word create, like, yes, it's like I actually do believe we have come here to create because I actually do think I can see energy transmutes into different dimensions, and
Well, and
through that transmutation.
everything around us is a creation that didn't exist before.
Exactly. So therefore, everything's birthed with the principle of extinction. Nothing can survive forever, including the human conditioning, including the old style of relationship to relationships. And all of this is returning back to the imagery of self, which is ultimately God as well. Because I do believe all is already co-created. It's just a matter of the self feeling worthy, feeling empowered, feeling desired by the creation to be created. And again, it's always for me a creation of self. But yeah, I can see so much right now the distortion of relationships, the distortion of money, the distortion of everything. Because what I see in the universe is that we're being very much controlled through economics and sexuality. And both feminine and masculine are playing out these roles heavily because we do see a lot of the concept of leave the matrix, leave the matrix. And I really understand that, but that doesn't necessarily mean to leave the matrix, you need to be $20 million richer. There's like this, again, an illusion around money, so to speak, to break us free from the prison that we're in. And that can also too be another form of slavery as well. That's why if you look at the masters, Buddha, Jesus, a lot of these guys who come down, what was the common theme? They had no money because they weren't imprisoned to the concept of being wealthy and expanding into more wealth. It's about self.
Well, and here's where I want to challenge that a little bit because we've created a construct in this state, not just this state, but in this 3D state, I guess. We've created a construct where money does amazing things. If you are a person that does amazing things with money, because it's not money that's good or bad. Money is a measurement of value that we've assigned to say, hey, I want that shirt that you're wearing. It's a great shirt, and you say, okay, give me 10 of these. And I go, okay, that's worth it to me because I really like that shirt. It increases my pleasure. I feel like I'm gonna be way cooler and less painful. And that's the exchange. But again, we've created so many stories about it and so many things have been passed down that I really truly believe that there is some dialogue about money being bad and then people rejecting it in this life, and the people that are creating that are like, money isn't good or bad, I'm going to go make a shit ton of it, I'm a shitty person, I'm going to do shitty things with it. And I just think that there's opportunity for us to just again redesign some of these things that we're calling these things. Like it's just the language that we're using, it's the story, it's the of all of it. When I wish that the most loving, kind-hearted, good-hearted people I know, I wish they had millions of dollars. They would be taking care of animals. They would be taking care of, other people. They would be doing all these things. Like there's a lot of creators out that are doing, people like Tony Robbins on his level and just all of these entrepreneurs that are making amazing money, not the social media algorithm entrepreneurs, not those guys. They're not. But the other ones that are doing things to create more harmony in the world. So I for me personally, I have really looked at money a whole lot differently in the sense that of course I want to be rich, but rich doesn't mean money. I want to be rich in myself. I want to be rich in life. I want to be rich in my moments. I want to be rich in my flavors. I want to be rich like that. And then money actually comes in then too, because I'm not rejecting it anymore. I'm not like, oh, I have to live my whole life to try and make money to pay my bills, but I fucking hate money and then just go back and forth with that shitty relationship. That doesn't work, people. Just so you know, I did it for a long time. It's not a healthy relationship with money at all. But I again, I think all of these things that you're talking about too, with the peace and the safety and the self, it's understanding that we can have it right now. We can feel it right now. Nothing in your past dictates you being able to experience it right now. Uncomfortable? Hell yeah. If you've been sauced up in depression and anxiety and worry and frustration and overwhelm and burnout and all of that, that where 99% of people are, trying to sink your teeth into a juicy flavor is going to feel really far away, but that's okay. That's just, we're just not used to it. And so like allowing yourself and giving yourself permission to just close your eyes and put your hand over your heart and just be like, I'm safe.
Mhm.
I'm safe. I'm safe.
I think what I hear, and it's interesting going back to the beginning, is being present. And I think that in wealth creation, it's about what presence am I exchanging that creates more presence, or does that lodge me into the future? Because right now, in the here and now, does the economics represent what I want or what I choose to have? And I can fully like expand and like extend anyone who's on that wealth creating journey, as long as it doesn't cost you from being present. The idea of energy exchange for Michael and the IM is to be fully more present. So how do I
Yeah.
create presence to exchange the reciprocal of finances? And that's something that, you know, again, stepping into the love of be here now and love what we do. So we're exchanging, yes, economy, but we're also exchanging my presence that calls me into this space that gives me remembrance. And I look at the old entrepreneurs, they're all been so lodged into the future. And then when they die, they go, fuck, I missed out. And yeah, I understand that, especially Steve Jobs. I think he even said it wasn't really worth losing my family time, because
Yeah.
a lot
Yeah.
of this hunger can
Yeah.
take you away from being present. And I
Yeah.
think that like it's really empowering, because like here in WA, right, there's the mining, and in the mines we have fathers going on for a week on or week off, or 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, come back and they're like almost dislodged in the family nucleus because wife and the kids are in their routine. Dad comes back and needs to sort of reintroduce himself in
Yeah.
the idea with the creation of wealth. And I see as this is happening as a relationship that's not in a strong bond, because the relationship that I'm choosing to call in will call me in to say, no, we can create the same amount of money if we pull together, versus you sacrifice your time at family home
Yeah.
and be away for 2 weeks and then come back for 2 weeks. And in these they have night shift as well. So dad
Yeah.
or mum's away and just getting flogged to
Yeah.
have a home and roof over their head. Now,
Yeah.
I respect it, I really do. But if I'm not disrespecting what their choices are, I start to
Yeah.
disrespect the relationship, because in my eyes, that's
Yeah.
not collectiveness, that's not collaboration, that's separation.
Yeah.
And no, that's how I operate. Yeah,
Yeah.
big time.
Well, and I'll tell you firsthand, I was told, get a good career, get a good job, get a good paycheck, get a husband, get a house, have a family, and then you'll be happy. And spent most of my life trying to achieve that and getting more and more and more miserable. And none of it. The moment that I got engaged, I literally put the ring on and cried for 2 weeks. I'm like, I
Wow.
don't think that's normal. Like, don't think that that's great. And I think that this is where we come back to ourselves and our power, because in my experience, we change the world around us when we change the world within us. When we
Mm.
change the world within us, we accept all parts. All parts just want to be seen. Now, I don't believe that that means that we have to feel every single emotion and relive every story. No, but there are versions of ourselves that we have been rejecting, blaming, shaming, and all parts just did the best they could with what they had. All parts did. All your parts did. All my parts did. And in that relationship with self, when that changes, it's not you fighting you, trying to find the world out there to fill something in you. It's you loving you, knowing that every single part of you was created with love and intention. And that allows you to let go of a lot of that emotional charge from the past so that, again, you can step into your power and say, what would I love to create? What would I love to create in this world? For some people, that's traveling multiple countries. For some people, that's creating $1 million. For some people, that's having a vision that's bigger than themselves. For some people, that's going and drinking on a beach. For some people, right? But what is that for you? What is true for you? And that to me is one of the biggest with we make up so many stories because we are afraid to give ourselves permission to actually say that that's what we desire and that's what I would love
Thank
to
you.
create.
Thank you. Because I actually see this in relationships where the woman or the man, I work with people on both genders who are calling in a relationship that just suits their needs, which could be a 2-day relationship, hot sex, minimal conversation, and that's the queendom. But we've decorated in this form where they're afraid to say that because that looks
Yeah.
secondhand or derogatory in some form. So I have to call in my king, I have to call in my queen to have this union, but underneath it, all they actually want is a 2-day complete hot sex love affair, and it's afraid to claim that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. You have to give
And
yourself permission. You have to give yourself permission to claim it, whatever it is. And then you
completely,
realize if you realize the programming so quickly, if you're like, oh, like my friend, when I was coaching with him and he wouldn't say it, I'm like, so basically you want a harem. And we just kept digging and digging. And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, then say that. Because I
yes,
guarantee that if you are in alignment with that, that you will actually get that with people that want that too, because
yeah.
you're in alignment and communicative about it. I'm like, it's when we don't communicate, shit gets messed up.
Massively, because we decorate it with the vision, the dream, and the fantasy. So a lot of visions that I see that don't come into fruition because it's actually based on past pain, and it's not
Yeah.
actually a collective heart experience expanding. But again, it's like feeling like I'm minimizing myself if I just want to have a dream that I get to work 3 days a week and just go plot around in the garden and just do zero. Like it's actually feel like that doesn't feel like it's worthy of the human experience. So we continue to decorate our visions with this flamboyant, extroverted idea of healing and conquering the world. And
Yeah.
underneath it, it actually is not the core truth.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
therefore, we're just constantly chasing the
Yeah.
vision of our past or what the idea vision should be for a man or the idea vision should be for a woman. So it gets really tested, and that's what I love about journey over time and matter. The other thing I wanted to share to you as well is that like that's why when we talk about our stories and our wounds and our emotions and where we're all upon and where we're all at, that's what I love about sex and intimacy. It's really beautiful medicine because it takes us to where we are in our body, and then
Yeah.
we takes us to where we disassociate in our body, and we takes us to where we associate in our body.
Yeah.
And that's why we are fully present in intimacy. It has such the healing medicine to remember the universal light and the creation and the peace and the
Yeah.
harmony and the here and now. And I actually do think that that's like, you know, I don't study Tantra, but I believe in the Tantric philosophy, you know what I mean? And this actually like shows the healing medicine of the component when two people come together and can be present in their bodies through that experiences, that actually illuminates the shame and the power of shame, what it had in our whole history. And
Yeah.
in this awakening, when we can let go of that, yes, there's a seed that's always in the sacral and in the root where I am what I've come forward here to the universe to create. And it's like this beautiful awakening that, you know, in these containers, it can awaken the creativity, the seed of I am. And you know, that's why, you know, through the healing and the journey for all of ourselves, and I'm the somatic therapist, where I can tell you now that all of our pain and shit's in our hips, in our anus, and in our genitals.
Yeah.
And where is creation? You know what I mean? It's in there. That's the energy of going into being able to create the universe. But what I can see on a global scale in the majority is that we can see that women are holding pain in there and men are dislodged from that space as well. So when we are in that space of intimacy, it's not being met with the tantric
Yeah.
philosophy. That's
Yeah.
not awakening the creativity. It's
Yeah.
awakening the yang of go out there and create. And in the yang of woman, I need this, and this, right? It's all external supplements. It's not the internal software where we can reside into. Actually, thinking small can make us be huge. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If we are in that truth of that's all I want for my life and claim it, holy fuck, welcome to the miracle, because you get to have what you want.
Yeah.
But in the
Yeah.
programming, in the conditioning, it's been disassociated so much to claim those parts to ourselves because we feel like that's not good enough in society's eyes. It's really
Yeah.
quite unique, yeah? So I think that, like, you know, in the relationship space, like, no matter whether it's wrong or right, like, we are aware of it pretty quick and pretty close. Like, you just put in the imagery of it could go well, it could go right. And yes, they play out their journeys and have their karma and all that kind of shit. Just like you, darling, how much more are you going to traverse with that? You know what I mean? Like, there's going to be a time where you go, I ain't doing this. I need to be here in my timeline so I can become all that I am. But it's really interesting where I think that, like, you know, going back to that feminine and the masculine dynamic of natural feminine and natural masculinity, this is my theory, right? That the
Yeah.
masculine body, right, can look after 100 women because it's the male body. We're here and to provide not only shelter, but care. Like, shelter is care for male. And in the feminine, right, she can have more than one child. So the ability to, like, love can be infinite. And one of the things that Osho would say, if you've got the ability to love 500, go out there and love 500. If you've got the ability to love two people, go out there and just love two people. Be everything that you can be in how much you can love. And I really do love that. And I'm not talking about monogamy and open related and all that kind of shit, right? That is what it is, right? But what I can see is that the restriction of the male body has been sabotaged. The restriction of the feminine body has been sabotaged because it has the capacity to be so much more than what we're just operating from. Because yes, we can have children and procreate, but like, what aligning with yourself, what you're saying, Dustin, is that it can create, like, fuck, it can create, it can fully create. And it's about taking ourselves away from those barriers to creating I am and being really in truth and integrity of things. I've lost my point of view, but yeah.
You're good. You're good. I think that the biggest reason that everybody's getting burnt out is because we're not connected to the truth of who we are. When we tap
Correct.
into our creative essence, that's when all the layers start to come up. That's this unfolding process of bringing up, letting go, bringing up, letting go, bringing up, letting go, and there's an unfolding process to it. But when we tap into our creative power, now I've not been able to experience this flow forever, and my life hasn't been all puppies and rainbows, but when you can tap into the juice of who you really are, and who you really are is whole and complete. You were never fucking broken. You're not actually wounded. It's just a lens. It's a lens that we looked through from a childish perspective, from this little being that had to learn how the world worked. And we made an assumption that it's not me, or it must be me. And oh, Chris said this most magical thing, and he's in Australia too, but he said we look to the mother to know that we have a heartbeat, and we look to the father to to tell us to bring, or like to show us to bring the heartbeat to the world. And it was really nurturing from the mother and validation from the father. And so we play out our life trying to solve these wounds. But the actual shift is we just all did the best we could with what we had up until now. Right now, we're here. What would we love to create? What would we love to create? What would you love to create? What would I love to create? Again, coming back to that again, and then flexing that focus in a whole new way. where we're not just spending our time, energy, and effort trying to solve the past with this perspective of like a GPS, where we leave our house, we drive around the neighborhood 4 times, we pull back into our house and go, why didn't we go anywhere?
Mm.
And
Mm-hmm.
because we have to set a whole new destination point. And we don't teach people how to actually, when that happens, we don't teach them with like the nervous system stuff. We don't teach them what happens when the fear comes up. We don't teach them how to still move forward in that creative tension and find safety no matter what's going on in your life. You find internal safety, you find internal peace, you find internal wholeness, you find internal love, that internal freedom wherever you are, because you can have it now. And we just have created so much in our human existence to tell us all the reasons why we can't have it now. But when we can have it now and we do claim whatever we want, new opportunities show up. Our reticular activating system starts to look for new opportunities, and things come in that were not visible to us before because our brain has been so focused on, here's the pain that I need to avoid. Here's the problem that I need to fix. Here's the thing that I need to heal. And by doing that, that's been our focus. That's what we've been creating more of. And round and round and round and round we go. And we just
Mm-hmm.
pretty up the cage. We're decorating
Mm-hmm.
the cage. We're putting up
Mm-hmm.
pillows, like curtains, It's like, let's just give the key. Like, here's the
Yeah.
key.
Yeah. It's interesting because when you're sharing, what shows up for me is again crystallize the body for the conduit to create whatever it is that wants to create. That's how I operate. And again, like with every vision that we move towards, it's not the vision that stops us from going ahead. It's what's creating our comfort zone that we continue to input that actually distorts the vision from going forward. And I think that like what I can see a lot in people's journey is that the fear of being alone. And naturally, when we are walking towards our pathways, you're going to spend the time alone a lot. And that's something that, if we manifest relationships, we manifest children, like that can be a cure to the loneliness. And that
Yeah.
isolates ourselves from the path into the summit and to the future as well. And I think that like, a lot of initiations from the universe shows up quite young through challenges to be able to, yes, self-regulate, self-soothe, but be comfortable with the person that I'm becoming. And I find that, it's really critical to be aware that we're going into time. What I can see now in humanity in the shift is like, when we're alone, we're not actually alone. We have ourself. There's two people. There's always a relationship between the self and the thought of self. Yeah. And that's what I love about the mind and the consciousness. And it's something that I can in my creations to unpack the universe and be able to share that through storytelling, I can see that, a lot of and as you can see it as well, like the cause and effect that actually prevents people from creating. And in that space, like, it's like I kind of want a fast forward thing, but that's my Aries flame where it's just like, okay, we can see that, burn that, fuck that, dismantle that, just go, 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 go. And that's not evolution, you know what I mean? It's a process. And in the process, like I listen to, certain people's relationships and I can see the Dharma and the Karma still playing out. And like, I couldn't be fucked with that, even though I couldn't be fucked. I can't be fucked diving into that. I've done 45 years of that, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And feeling worthy of like being matched in a person where I always say the right relationship is to complement it, not complicate it. You know what I mean? Not that we're going to avoid the hurdles and the pain and the trench. Like that will always come up because I think part of the illusion of relationship is that when you find your king and the queen, you live happily ever after. That is actually the complete misfold. That's not the truth at all. In fact, the trench and the pain and the suffering still continues. But if you have got that union that's in the right container, we are creating from that space of whatever evolution you're evolving into, that gives us, again, safety to fall and freedom to be me. And that's the paradigm that, that I reckon is important.
And then at that point, and this is what I don't see a whole lot. I see it I've seen it in a couple relationships, and I always point it out because I don't think that most couples are playing as a team. They're at war against themselves, and so they're at war against
Yes.
each other. And I get that. I did that, you know, and it still stems from the unconscious, that unconscious wound trying to prove the not it true. So it was like if I grew up with a heartbreak and rejection and all of that, which I did, I just picked partners that repeated that pattern that would again confirm that identity of I'm not it.
Yep.
And that's where it was like when I learned the shift, I was like, my whole life makes sense now. Like it really
Yeah.
does. Like it
It's
really, really does.
interesting
But
because what I, yeah, sorry.
oh, I think when you were saying the compliment, right? Compliment, not complicate, and enhance. Like when you can enhance your partner and you know how to play to your skills and you're actually on the same side of saying, "Hey, this is what we're co-creating together." Because as most people don't know what they're creating, most couples have no idea what they're creating together because they don't know
Yep.
internally for themselves.
Yep. Yep. It's like, it's really loud, the forces of conditioned relationship. And this is sort of going to be a bit of a stab in the dark, but I actually think that 80% of the humanity are in the wrong relationship because it's manifested from fear and the conditioning. And when
I'd
they
say
enter that space,
98%.
oh, thank you. I was being pretty lenient. I
I know,
kind
I'm
of use
like
the
90,
80/20 rule.
98%. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I'll say it.
I really do. Like, I really think
Yeah.
there's a lot of misaligned relationships and it's based upon fear. And like, what's interesting, what showed up for me is that when I was younger, I got scared of the dark, like really, really scared of the dark. And I would go into my sister's room when we were both young and sleep in her bed to get comfort. And then what I realized that when it came time to stand alone in my path, I'd
Yeah.
always manifest a woman to come into the space of fear.
Yeah.
So I look at this analogy and go, oh, I can see how relationships use each other unconsciously to bring ourselves into the shadow because it's really scary to confront by myself. And if I have someone there beside me, that gives me comfort, like the mother, the nurturer,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
validation to know I'm on the right journey, right? And it comes a time in my initiation that's showing up now is that like we have to like go into our once upon a time our darkness and reflect the light back to our own pain to show our strength of like I feel I am and I feel I'm ready in my I am and whatever
Yeah.
shows up in that spaces. But I can see a lot of relationships unconsciously manifest to come down into their shadow. So when you're fearful of doing it by yourself, what do? The partner comes in and all of a sudden the chaos, the addictions start to come up to the surface because
Yeah.
we've manifested someone to come into my shadow. And
Yeah.
fuck, I'm really sorry that I did that because their awareness is not there. It's just not there. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I
Yeah.
think that it's like a really powerful remembrance is like when we are developing relationships, where's it really coming from? What part of my source am I calling this person in? And
Yeah.
be really accurate in like your emotions to what's showing up in that question. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think that that's something quite unique for me at the moment is that I've unconsciously used women to come down to my shadow. And I can tell you this now, Dustin, all of my women have been fucking high powered women, alpha women, really strong women. No shit. Because
Yeah.
they all represent my sister on some form who can like
Yeah.
be my bodyguard to
Yeah.
protect myself from the shadow. And the thing is, what I love about women is that they
Yeah.
will protect you
Yeah.
over anything. Like women will sacrifice their
Oh,
life
yeah.
to save others more
Oh,
than men. You know
absolutely.
what I mean?
Yeah.
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 So it's an interesting dialogue that's been showing up.
Well, and so I I haven't dated. I don't even think it's probably been 5 years since I've had sex, probably. Like probably like we're probably going on six now. And it's not because I haven't had the opportunity, but it was so apparent to me, the guy that I dated for 3 months that took me 10 years to get rid of. I was like, I am not getting in another relationship until I get to the bottom of the relationship with myself. And
Beautiful.
it's taken me this long, and it's been really interesting to look at those patterns that came up, because for me it was every relationship cheated on me. That's exactly what I saw growing up. Every man I was like had to prove I was worthy of love. and that I was capable or I did a good job. And then I started listening to these spicy audios and I was like, wow, I really got a good girl king going on. Like, I was like, I see where that's at. Like, I see where that's at. And what I told my friend when we talk about this stuff too, I was like, the other thing is we see these shadows or these patterns and we try and fix them and try and heal them. And the more we try and get rid of them or break them or all the language that we have around them, like the more stuck we feel in them. And I think sometimes it's just about acknowledging, like, okay, what is it that you want? Well, apparently I want to be called a good girl in the bedroom, like, and claiming that, and that meeting the need, but in a more empowering way. So when my friend was talking about it, I was like, listen, like, what do you want? I was like, you're self-torturing yourself. I'm like, do you need to be spanked? I'm like, do you want to be tied up? And like, what is it? Like, get to the bottom of what it is, because there is a need there that's not being met. And it was a need from, this little teeny thing that barely knew the world, and the need didn't get met. And so we put this like protection thing on it, and we put this thing around it and all of that, and it's like, but trying to get to that need of what it is, and then just acknowledging that that's the need, and then saying, okay, can I play this out in a more empowering way? And I always joke, and I'm like, you know what, if I've got stories that are still up there, like the person that I'm in a relationship with, we'll figure out how to work out those stories. Like there's a couple
Yeah.
of ways to do it that's more empowering than self-mutilation or
Yeah.
drinking myself to death or any of the other things that I tried.
Yeah.
But I think you can do that when you have a whole partner too. They can hold space for the mess. Both men, like the men and the women, can hold that space when those stories come up to say, hey, I see it, you see it, it's okay. And then taking those little action steps and behavior that build that trust. But you have to
Yeah.
have self-trust with yourself, because if you're trying to create trust with another person before you trust yourself, it's not going to work.
Completely. And you've nailed it right there. That means you're unsafe. This is the whole thing. Like, you'll be putting the responsibility for my, equilibrium in times in the relationship, and you're losing your own ability to have your own back. That makes it feel unsafe. This is the whole thing about the
Yeah.
feminine collective, right? I know you want safety, but if you don't have your own back in the micro, it's not going to show up in the
Yeah.
macro.
Yeah.
And this is where you're a liability. And same with the male. If you want the freedom, but you can't give yourself the freedom to express yourself, you're going to lose your freedom. You're going to feel suppressed and compromised in the relationship. And it's going to just end up in challenge. You know what I mean? And this is where I can hear it and I can see it and I can validate it. However, if you're choosing sovereignty and you're choosing self, not the condition, not through fear, not through having nice homes and having the lifestyle that I want, if you're choosing sovereignty, you'll always be safe. But if you're choosing from condition and fear, you're unsafe. The reason why is you're a liability to yourself. You don't have your own back, and that's the fear. And I can see it running rapidly through everyone. And again, we're seeing a complete majority over minority about calling in this certain type of male. And this is what I said the other day, like, one divine masculine is another woman's trash. And I say it in that way because we're not all the same, but yet the projection's all the same. We're trying to birth and create these women and this male archetype to fundamentally save the planet. And it's not actually there. It's in the individual duality and the individual self to remember that only it's me that I get to be in a relationship with in the relationship. It's only me I get to be with. And if I choose me, the person will show up and choose them. Then there's a beautiful union. And that's the relationship with self, is that how do you know you're in the relationship? Because the relationship with myself feels safe. It doesn't feel judged. It feels like it's got a space to do X, Y, and Z. And that is meaning that we've chosen me. And I don't know how many people I've met who fully have chosen me and then have this relationship that's got the beauty. It's always got challenges and chaos, which of course is naturally there until we choose ourselves. And that's the relationship for mankind. It's never to do with woman or man. This is a misillusion. It's to choose self, which is unlimited light, creation, whatever wants to be there. But if
Yeah.
we're not choosing self, you're going to feel unsafe. If you're
Yeah.
not choosing self, you're going to have your freedom lost. It's just a natural law.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have a dare for you.
Sure.
Because I thought that this was really interesting when I did it. And I think it's really powerful. And anybody that's listening too, I dare you to do this too, because I did it. So yeah, so last year totally discovered, I guess it would be called audio erotica, but I'm in love with voice actors. Like I did not know I was so auditory sensitive. And I was like, thank God that none of my ex-boyfriends knew this, because holy shit. But what I also discovered, the spicy ones are good, and some voices are definitely better than others. But for me, um, they do these audios that literally have trained my nervous system to receive what I was missing hearing. And
Right.
sometimes it's like breathing, sometimes it's like heartbeat, sometimes it's just like when I was going through it with Simba, there was like one particular, it's called like Rest Your Head, and he just walks you through this like 20 minutes. And every night, because I was completely alone, like I didn't have support from my family, my friends disappeared, like I was going through this whole situation alone. So I was listening to that and I was like, wow, this is really, I'm receiving this. Like I'm receiving it and I'm safe in it. And so one of the cool things that I did is because I want to interview a voice actor. I have to know. I have so many questions. So many questions. So many questions. But I was like, I bet you that's really scary to start doing. I bet you that's really scary to imagine a scene and to play it out and only have like one side of it.
Mm.
So I recorded 3 of them. And one was like, and these were not spicy people, but the one was like getting home and the person that I was with was sick, and like taking out my massage table, giving them a massage, like just like taking care of them. And then another one was like, I love massages. So I think another one was like a massage too or something like that. But it was very interesting going through that for me. And then I did it from my perspective with somebody else, but then I also did it of playing out the conversation from somebody else that I was imagining that I wanted to hear. And I dare you to try it. I dare you to try it
Okay.
because it's really potent, and take it wherever you want. But when you really allow yourself to get into it, there was a couple of things that was happening for me. I was actually creating the scene in the future where I was allowing myself to receive all of that, where I was allowing myself to hold a man in that space that I love to hold a man in, but also putting myself in a space where I was able to receive the kind of love that I've always wanted to receive as well, and actually embodying it in my voice. And it was something was very powerful about that. It was so awkward and it was so out of my comfort zone, but it was powerful. And then I listened to it.
So, right. And this is erotic, or is it hit like?
It's on the erotic app. They're
Yeah.
like there's so many of them because all of these men are just creating this space for women to give them things that they haven't gotten before. And some of it
Interesting.
is like some of it's really spicy. But this is where I started the show. I don't need a book boyfriend. I need an audio king. Because I want to get a male counterpart that will listen to one with me. We listen to it like we both listen to it and we both come back and talk about it. And then each one gets to pick out a different audio. So we get to experience it from a different perspective.
Okay, okay. I think you might have mentioned this once to me before,
Yeah,
and I didn't probably
I so
gravitate
did.
it fully. Yeah, but now I fully understand it
Yeah.
because, yeah, that sounds fantastic. I'm actually like, I'm actually got a very curious, I've got like a natural instinct, whatever it is, to write dark fantasy. So I can
Okay.
like really script out really beautiful auditory language in terms of the eroticism side of it.
Okay.
And of course the healing components of that stuff as well. So yeah, just curious to know how that would actually sound. And I'm like, oh, I need to check this out because that sounds super interesting about what it is that you're talking
I
about.
will send you the name of the app is called Quinn. If you can
Yeah,
download it and you want to come
yeah,
on and you want to do that
yeah,
with me, I've already
yeah, I
got
will.
I already got it was my first audio that I found.
Yep,
It will go through that and we'll talk about it, and then you pick out one, and then
yes,
we'll listen to it and talk about it, because I think it's so amazing to hear from other perspectives. And two, everybody has different flavors.
yeah,
Everybody has different flavors of it, and I think that the more we talk about it, we don't have to shame them or blame them in understanding. Like, I learned so many tags on these videos. I'm like, well, what the hell is that? Like, I've never heard of
yeah,
that before. And I will be honest, like, for me, the thing that turns me on about a partner is touch and presence and intimacy. I
yep,
don't need a whole lot of like role playing or any, like, I've never needed that, like, in that depth, or I've never needed to be in pain. I've created
yeah,
enough of that myself, but it was always extraordinary when the person was there with me. um and I do think that there are some fun things to explore in different areas that I haven't before, but man, there's a lot, like, we have a lot of names for stuff. We named everything. I'm just like,
great.
I just look at the tags of this. I was just like, okay. So, maybe we don't need to name everything and we can just enjoy the experience without having to call it something. But it's very
Yep.
interesting though, because it is helping women get into a receiving state, because women are not receiving. And it actually is
Yeah.
helping men get in a receiving state, because first off, they're actually, not only are these audio actors, I think that it's helping their nervous system, because they're stepping into this way where they know that they're not only getting, God knows how many times I've listened to some of them, but like 10 million times, they're affecting all of these women in the ether in so many ways. But they're also like creating this, I'm sure a lot of these stories are written by women as well. So they're giving women exactly what they want.
Interesting.
It's
I
so
reckon that's
interesting.
brilliant.
Yeah,
That's
it's so
really
interesting.
interesting
So
because
interesting.
like I have this idea that like if a man provides a woman with all of her needs, she will stop being receptible to his leadership and his self, right? Meaning that the male provides space for her to meet her needs, right?
Okay.
The male provides space for him to provide her needs, but not all of them, because if she receives, as you can see that a man dotes over her woman, she becomes the man. And what I see is that the women's natural ability to co-regulate themselves is better than man, right? So if she's in the right container, she would be able to co-regulate herself quite
Yeah.
naturally. If the male provides everything that she ever wanted, therefore there's no other thing that she can be desired. There's no other part to herself that she can be in submission of the patience of waiting for the next bit to come forward. She then will start to terminate the relationship, because the woman is receptible to the male's leadership into the male's container. But if the
Huh.
male comes in and provides all of her needs, therefore there's nothing more the male can do for the woman. Therefore, the woman then becomes the man in the relationship and then starts to move onwards or inwards. Well, not
Huh.
inwards, you know what I mean? So I
Yeah.
see that there's like this fine
Interesting.
line
Yeah.
between providing everything for the woman, but don't provide it all and let her come to her own natural cause and effect to be able to meet her own needs so she
Yeah.
can be in receptivity of the energy.
Well, and I think it's the same if the intention is I'm going to give you everything that you need so you don't leave me, or I'm going to people please you to death so you see how valuable I am, which is
Yes.
what I see a lot of that type of coming in. Because if you're going to meet my needs, you're going to understand when I'm coming in and I'm a fucking storm and I need a fucking cuddle and a blanket and a glass of water, you know, and or you're going to try and fix it. And I think in the fixing it, that's where it's like I'm trying to solve all your needs. So I think we're just getting it wrong. You know, I think
Yeah.
we're just getting it wrong. And it does, I really truly believe it just does start with self. And when we realize we're whole creative force energy. We rode in on a fucking orgasm. We're
Yeah.
masculine energy, we're feminine energy, we're whole and complete. And when we can approach a relationship as a whole and complete being with another whole and complete being, creation happens in a whole new way because we're not trying to energetically take or like whatever, or play out these roles with each other that are just repeating our unconscious wounds that we have.
Yeah.
Because, you know, that's the difference of like me coming into your life and being an alpha woman and being like, rah, 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 you know, like whatever that pattern is, or someone like you coming into my life and being like, oh, I love you, but I just cheated on you. And like that, just that unconscious pattern again, just reflected in different ways, depending on what our comfort zone was. And I
Yeah.
think we also really could understand. And when we start to understand this, we release the grip of like the trying to fix ourselves when we truly understand that we're not broken. We never
Agreed.
were. We're just outdated programming. And when we can truly step into that self-empowerment piece of permission, regardless of anything that's happened in your past, regardless of anything that you've been through, if you could give yourself permission to claim what you really want in this life, one thing, what would that be? Like not just one thing, but one thing now. What would that
Mm.
be?
Mm.
And I think when we can get to the source of that, we begin to feel differently and we begin
Mm-hmm.
to see differently and we begin
Mm-hmm.
to energetically touch people differently. Because I know that when
I,
people come into my world, I'm like, dude, I was touching you 15 feet ago. like
yeah.
like you think you just stepped into my world here. I'm like, I have been sending out my heart energy and all of that. Like you came in my bubble like 15 feet before you even got here, and that's why you're so
Yeah.
like, I feel safe. I feel like all this stuff. And I'm like, because I've been touching you the whole time. And I did, you know, and I watched this and have tested this with people and everything. And, you know, doing Reiki and in the work that you do, you know, that energetic touch. Um, absolutely. But again, I think it's coming, it has to come from that place of enhancement. Like you were
Yeah.
saying, the compliment, right? We're gonna compliment because maybe you're leading more in the masculine, which is the action taking or the whatever that is. And maybe the woman is holding that space of calm or holding that space of stillness or whatever that nurturing, you know, whatever that nurturing is. And then when you can really play to those superpowers, it's unbelievable what can unfold.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that nobody's taught us how to do this really.
Mm-hmm.
So
Totally.
we're just,
And even in like, you know, David Dieter and all those, you know, authors that suggest that the male is in love with his purpose, his vision,
mm-hmm,
and the woman would be in love with the male and the children. But the primary focus is not actually her, it's his vision. And underneath it, if I look at an energetic level, that can serve really beautiful, really well. If the male is attached to his vision, because not all males are, that's the thing. It's got like particles that are missing. But if I look at that concept, therefore, like if the male is Jude, glued to his vision, and the woman is programmed to be glued to the family, there has to be an understanding that her needs can't be met, because at some point she doesn't want all of her needs being met, because if he's providing all of her needs being met, he's not glued to his vision, therefore she can't follow the journey with him. It's going to be them two following. It's a little bit confusing what I'm saying, but I can see how as an example, some men would choose the wife over the children, and then the wife will always choose the children over the males. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there always will be not an imbalance, because that's balanced. You know what I mean? But I think we're seeing things as imbalance, which is part of the actual problem in society, is that we're
Yeah.
seeing such imbalance, but it actually could be very much imbalance,
Yeah. Well,
Interesting.
and if we're willing to let go of what we think we know, because we really made it all
Yes.
up. We just made it
Yeah.
all up. We made it
Yeah.
all up. We put a story attached to it. We created all this dialogue that's been passed down again and again and again, that said, do it this way, this keeps you alive. Don't do it this way, this creates pain. And those got distorted too. But if we're just willing to give it all up, again, if you can approach whatever relationship that you're in with new communication of, what would you like to create together as a friendship? What would you like to create together as a relationship? What would you like to create together as this mailman relationship? Like, I would love to create my
Yeah.
mail getting here on time. And do you want snacks? Like, what do we need to do here? Like, whatever that is, because then we've got that same GPS point.
Yeah.
And the communication between men and women, it's just a breakdown and a reflection of how bad our communication is with ourselves.
Correct. Thank
It
you.
really
Yeah.
is.
Oh, yeah, it is. It is.
It really, really
Yeah.
is. And I think that that's the interesting part, when we really start to understand that, because right now we're trying to change the world within us by trying to change everything around us.
Yeah.
And it's not working. That's not how it works. But
No.
when we start to change that inside of us, it starts to mirror that universal principle of, the small mirrors the large, and the large mirrors the small. And so we can actually change the course of the world, but we have to look within first. And
Yeah.
that's where most people don't want to go. And
Yeah.
it can, if you don't have support, it's real scary. It's real scary, because it looks infinite. The fear is, your brain is going to try and tell you all the reasons why you can, and all the reasons why you should go back, and all the reasons why, all the stories will come up,
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
again, if you don't have support through it, you most likely will just continue to go back into repeat.
Yeah.
Do you see that too in your work? Just
Yeah,
the
of
Yeah.
course. Of
Yeah.
course. There is a complete rinse and repeat going on. And
Yeah.
again, not claiming fully what I want is part of the problem, because it just keeps on people putting them in the space of healing, thinking there's something wrong, because I've got to
Yeah.
put the fantasy over what I fully want. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
So it's all like, I see it a lot. I see it a lot. And again, we can go to retreats, we can do everything, but it's in the micro that has to change. It's our daily
Yeah.
habits, our hourly habits, our weekly habits, our minute by minute habits,
Yeah.
where we've got to evolve. Otherwise,
Yeah.
evolution stays the way that it is. It's just fundamental law.
Yeah. Well, I'm really, I love our conversations. I love our conversations. I'm really excited that you want to listen to some of these audios, because I'm dying to talk to somebody about them.
Yes.
I had one,
Yes.
and I had one, the first audio king come on, because I used to write erotica, I guess, and people used to tell me I was pretty good at it. And I've always had a really good imagination, and I've always had a really good physical experience too. I mean, I really got to live. I was like, some of those stories I'm like aren't made up. Like, I actually got to live that, which was fucking phenomenal.
Epic.
Um,
Great.
but I think too that, like, there's just this. So I've had over 35,000 conversations with Uber and Lyft. All the conversations I've had in my lifetime, people think that they're thinking different thoughts. They're not. Men aren't thinking different thoughts. Women aren't thinking different thoughts. They're telling different stories, but they're all coming from that they don't believe that they're it. They're all coming from that knotted identity. And I also, when somebody gets in my car, it's great because there's this, like I said, I've infused my car with heart energy and all of the stuff so that when they get in, it's just like, wow, I feel like I just want to tell you everything. And I'm like, bring it. I'm like, let me hear it. And what I think is amazing about this is that people are starting to get curious about what it is that they really want. They're
Yeah.
starting to get more
Yeah.
curious than they are scared about it.
Yeah.
And most people are pretty spiritually kinky on the inside.
I agree. I
They
agree.
really are. They
Yeah.
really are. And a lot of people will be like, no, I'm like, no, I know what goes on. Like I know what you're doing. Um, so I think that too, the three really pillars that I teach and coach on is permission, to give yourself the permission to claim it, because we already edit it so much we won't even allow ourselves to imagine it. Like I wouldn't even allow myself to imagine being married because of all the things that were getting in the way, all the stories that were coming up. Imagine. So understanding that the imagination is where the alchemy happens. And so you kept saying crystallize in the body. And what's amazing is when we go into what I call super conscious creating, it's like we're starting off as the ice cube, we're moving into vapor, and then we're in the cloud. And when we're in the
Yeah.
cloud, when we're using that new focus of whatever it is that we're trying to, a true choice that we're trying to create. And if you don't know what your true choice is, start with one of those four and just see what comes up. Like, I choose to create a life I love. What does that look like? What does that feel like? Who's in that? What are you doing? And then getting in that end result emotion of whatever those flavors are, and then coming back down into crystallizing into the body with new information, new insight, a new super conscious experience. So it's like the alchemy of how we're actually stepping into our imagination and bringing it into the body,
Mm.
because we're
Mm.
teaching our body that it's safe to have now.
Yeah. 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 Because I actually think that, like, for masculinity to lead in the, okay, I'll just say it as is, right? What I see that there has been resistance is allowing men to lead, right?
Oh
Because
yeah.
we can
Oh
see it's
yeah.
been misled. It's been completely misled,
Yeah.
right? But what I understand is that with all the wisdom and the healing that we've opened up ourselves to, what we want to bring it back into the primate. And in that space, there will be an awakening of masculinity, and it actually awakens his primate, his prehistoric mammal. It actually awakens that. And in the psychology of Yang, that feels dangerous. And there's a prevention that's occurring, because if we continue the way that we're doing, we don't want to awaken any kind of more danger. We want to awaken more of the safety. But in the safety of the masculine body, it's to be in his his primate ways. And in his primate ways, there is extended relationships, there's emotional relationships with people, there's like, it looks quite different to how we're functioning right now. And I can see that with all of this intelligence, it needs to be now embodied and turned into intellect to be able to rationalize the thought process and into the global spaces, right? But what I can see is there's the prevention, because if what we're seeing is that we can see men not using probably their heart more than their mind, and then you seeing the mind as being dubbed as the animal, you know what I mean? Because once the mind gets hold of greed and so
Yeah.
forth, there can be momentum. But
Yeah.
what I can see is that in the relationships, we actually awaken the man's male body, which is quite primate. And that it feels quite scary to awaken, because what we can see is animalistic behavior. And I can see there's almost a prevention, because women are dying for men to lead. Listen to the language, listen to the language. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Oh, yeah.
But a lot of the leadership in the way that a male will lead, it's not so much in domineering, but it's almost in quite, how can I say it? Like, when a male leads, to lead with his heart is to lead with his body. And in his body, there will be strong boundaries that
Yeah.
is acceptable and not acceptable behavior. And in that, there's a scarcity in our feminine, because those boundaries may shut people out. It may not allow, it may not happen, it may occur. We don't fully know. But what I can see is that when a male leads with his whole body, he isn't animalistic, but he's got his primate, he's primal. He becomes more primal. And what we see in the society now is that primal has created destruction, but that's with the mind creating capitalism that's created sickness. His primate is to be here more now. His primal is to be more instinctual with his choices, because he's leading from all of his body. And I feel that there is just a space of sensitivity and scarcity in allowing a male to lead with all of his body, because it stops things that have been evolving in relationships that have allowed something, and that just goes, it just ceases to stop. And I actually think that the tantric light awakens the masculine to move with all of his body. And I actually think that that's why the sex and the healing and the medicine is so beautiful. There's this scarcity, because when we access all of our body, it could look quite different to how it's been used in the history. And inside of that, it becomes quite primal, instinctual, but he's got the intelligence of modern intelligence that we have to bring further down into our body and allow the male to lead with all of his body that has got primal instincts. They're not killer instincts, they're primal instincts. They're not greedy instincts, they're nature instincts. And there's a fear response to that, because we don't know how that fully looks. And that's why I do believe that the tantric light is the cure to awaken the masculine body to lead with all of his body, just not with his mind.
Well, I think that's the key to me, and that's the fundamental thing that changed the course of my life, was learning heart-head coherence and how to practice that and how to actually live in heart harmony. Because that's not puppies and unicorns. That means you're incoherent. And whether you're a male or female, we have masculine and feminine energy within us. Maybe there's energy that needs to lead more, or that wants to lead more in a particular body. I don't pretend to, like, only you know that, only I know that, only somebody else knows that in their body. But when we initiate that power within us, we can move in that highest essence of what it is, whether it's the masculine or the feminine, whether it's the primal, whether it's the presence, whether it's the capacity, whether it's the stillness, whether it's the whatever that is. We can call on that and move in that, and that is actually our true nature.
Yes.
It's in the way of
Yes.
our true nature, and
Be-
it's out of the survival brain into the presence of being able to tap into those superpowers of the masculine or the feminine when needed.
100%. Here's the thing, right? And it's been sort of showing up for me, is that the way an embodied male would lead is with his cock. But we've got so much cock shame around our own body and how the power of misuse of cock, because he thinks with his cock, not with his head. Off with his cock and keep his head, whatever's going on. But the cock is actually the penetrative force that opens up the new dimensions. And it hasn't been safe for men to lead with his cock because it's been shamed and misused in sexual abuse, in sexual misconduction, the way that society has illuminated the positive cock relationship, just like women with their vagina. There's so much unhealthy relationship with the women in the yonis because of X, Y, and Z. But the new masculine has to lead with his cock. And it's really scary to give that power over because it's been misused by the modern male through a variety of experiences.
I do agree with that, but I also totally believe that book talk and audio, like the rise of book talk and dark romance, although I have not gone down that rabbit hole. I'm like, I'm good. Like we're good on some of that stuff. Like I don't need to I don't need to do that. I'm good. Like whatever. What if everybody's got a flavor? I know what my flavors are, but some of them. But with the amount of first off male influencers that are teaching women body positivity, that are teaching women how to regulate their nervous system, that are teaching women how to step into their sexual energy, that are empowering women. There's so many male creators now online doing that. And actually, like they call it like healing hearts that they didn't break. And then with the erotic audio, because your brain doesn't really know the difference. If I can close my eyes, like that person is in my room touching my body. Like it's amazing.
Yeah.
And then book talk, down the book talk rabbit hole, women are actually leaning into that more, and men are having to almost raise their standards and start reading this stuff and listening to their stuff, because the women are literally getting what they need and receive, and they now know and have set standards based on this person that they don't even know telling them that they're worthy, telling them how beautiful they are, telling them, you know, how all the things that these women that have been abused haven't heard before. So it's creating this natural acceptance of men doing that. And it's from my experience of the conversations, every time that I mention spiritually kinky to anybody, everybody goes, ooh. And I go, yep. Because we are acknowledging that there's a shift going on, even if we can't understand it, even if most people don't understand what is happening right now. That is being very revered, of men stepping up and leading in a safe, trustworthy, full capacity with boundaries, and holding capacity for all these women. And then the women are receiving, and then they're changing, and then they're holding boundaries, and they're getting clearer on their choices. And so I think that there's this like mutual thing that's going on, where women are allowing themselves to receive and to not lead, to not control, to let go of control. This is the surrender. And also men are surrendering the things that they've been shamed for, and allowing us to come together in a new way. And it feels like it's still new, but it's growing.
It is new.
It's
It is. I mean, I can see pros and cons in that, you know what I mean? However, like we all got to get the wisdom and the teaching through trial and tribulations. Yeah. Because obviously what we can see commonly when people do the work is they come home and their partner don't provide the same equality information or transmission that they got through healing or through those auditory things. Then it creates a benchmark and a disassociation a little bit as well. So, you know, as like, I can see that even with the AI and the artificial intelligence, like we are learning at a rapid capacity, but are our bodies able to embody that into an environment that can support that? That's like when you go do buffet ayahuasca, you go have a God experience, come back into society, then relapse and trip because the visuals and the halluc and the journey can't be supported in the external because it's just too fast, too quick.
Yeah.
However, that's all different variations. But I can see that it's like, what do I believe in? Something's better than nothing. You know what I mean? And if it starts to be able to train ourselves to feel safe inside of our body and start to give us equality of
Yeah.
reciprocation through the masculine, fucking I'm all for it. Do you know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
But
Well,
allow then the natural touch and the natural antidote of the healer to come forward.
yeah, and I don't think, because I started the whole, like, spiritually kinky all started with the hypothesis of like, could AI replace humans? And I don't think that it can, but I think that it can be leveraged in a way. And when I say AI, I also mean like the audio stuff, and because that's just kind of like what came across my path at the time. And I think it is an amazing tool. And I think, yes, if you hear somebody for the first time, that voice like just gets inside your ears and makes you feel a certain kind of way, and they tell you something that you've never heard before that you've always wanted to hear. I think if you have a partner and you express that that's something that you liked, or if you had a partner that you're like, listen to this, like, this did something, or if you tried to have a conversation with your partner and they were not receptive to that, I think those things point out, are you with the right person first? Because I think that becomes really clear if somebody's not willing to build that bridge with you as you discover what you like or what you don't like, or all the stories, right? If somebody's not willing to build that bridge with you, then maybe, yeah, you have been in the wrong relationship for 20 years. Is that painful? Yeah. Yeah. Does it mean you should stay? No.
Mm,
So I think it gives us the opportunity as well to find out really what we do like,
mm,
and to leverage that. And when you actually don't have somebody, I
mm.
can't tell you how big of a support just listening to a heartbeat at night, or somebody taking me through breathing exercises in a way that I was like, oh my God, that was so good, because it was like they were right there with me when I was going through something really devastating alone. Like, it was
Oh,
powerful.
look, the whole lot triggers me in a way, not to what you're doing, but like, because the village is so broken that we have to now listen to someone else's heartbeat through a speaker to get co-regulation. This is a fundamental natural way of bonding with human beings. Our
Yeah.
community and our universal village is so distorted right now that we're using these AI equipment to find co-regulation where it's got to come through a child, I mean, from skin to skin contact. But because the community is so disassembled, we're not even getting skin to skin contact, which
Oh
is just
no.
fucking
Yeah.
alarming. It's really, really alarming. You
I
know what I mean?
agree.
And like,
I agree.
it's fucked. It's absolutely fucked. And again, like we don't want to
And
know our neighbors, like whatever,
yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree. I think if we use these things again as a um I see it going both ways. I see people using these things and then going, see, I don't need another person.
Mm-hmm.
Or I see people using them that said, oh, like, this allowed me, that when I was sitting with my friend or when I was sitting with my boyfriend, I could experience it on a deeper level, because I did find something in myself. And I think it's a useful tool instead of just going out and just trying to find this thing in other people, that you're just jumping from relationship to relationship to relationship and just leaving bodies, because I see that pattern too. I think it can be useful there, but I absolutely agree with you, because somebody whose love language is touch, it took everything in me last year to ask a friend who I had just met. I was like, I want a massage.
Yeah.
And it took everything in me to get on that table and to allow, and I was like, but I need to know how to receive touch like
Yeah.
this. you
Yeah.
know and
Yeah.
and I just jumped into a bunch of things, because I was like, listen, like, I'm not trying to just go and fuck somebody, and I'm not trying to just go and start up a relationship because I feel like I need to be complete or filled or whatever that is. Um, but because I was listening to that stuff, it allowed me to get on that table to receive because I acknowledged that there were things that I was missing and I did want to be touched in a way that I was not allowing myself to receive. So that's also when I started to get to know myself again, and then transmuting all of the sexual creative energy into spiritually kinky and just going, yeah, I just built all of that in like 2 months completely off of sexual energy,
100%.
not going out
100%.
and fucking other people or getting,
Yeah.
like dissipating it that way. So I just think that it needs to be education, right? Like we need to educate about it in a different way, and to be able to teach people how we are safe touching each other again, like
Yeah.
because just we've just so many stories, and I get it. The women that I'm working with and I talk to now, they have been through horrendous abuse. I have been through horrendous abuse. It sucks. Like it sucks that we had to go through that, and I don't know why we had to, but it's what so many of us have experienced. But the closing off and the blame and the I can't trust anyone or I'll never trust anyone again, like I don't believe that that's the answer. I believe that we
No,
have
that's not the
to,
medicine. No,
yeah,
no, no.
how
That's
how
not the
to
medicine.
how to build the bridge with each other of communication to say to emotionally intelligent people, like we are safe to hold this space together. Touch, talk,
Absolutely.
communicate, fuck,
Yeah,
fight,
I
whatever.
agree.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like whatever it is.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
just to be safe in that and to because we've just put so many things in our way. We've put so many stories and so many things in our way, and all of that. And I agree. I think the lack of touch is really when I've driven people who have really been in a dark place, and I've like either leaned back or put my arm on their leg or something like that, or reached back to hold their hand, and these people were like on the verge of not wanting to be here anymore. And just doing that, the expression, their body expression, their language of, oh my God, like you're holding my hand. Like
Yeah.
it shouldn't be that fucking big of a deal.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be romanticized. It shouldn't be like this huge thing. Of course, I'm fucking holding your hand. You are a
Yeah.
human being in a dark place, and I'm here with you.
Yeah.
And I just want you to know you're not alone.
Yeah.
But the amount that people like opening doors for people, like being
Yeah.
nice, acts of kindness, like that's all fucking
Yeah.
presence. That's
Yeah.
all intimacy.
Yeah.
And it's getting lost.
Yeah.
It's
Yep.
getting
It
lost.
really is. It
Yeah.
really is. And it's not, and it won't be the way that the universe ascends to its new realms.
Yeah.
It needs the physical body to move into the evolution with it, not just escapism and then try
No,
to like leave the planes. No, it
we're in this
needs
body.
completely. And it's the body that's actually the conduit to those other realms. That's why, like, I can't express enough that yeah, we got to leave with all of our bodies, and inside of that will look a little bit different, but there's a fear response to it. And again, of course, what you just expressed as well as, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's really deep, and it's really brings up quite a bit of sadness to see that that's the state of our well-being in this realm of intelligence. It's
Yeah.
actually quite sad that that's our IQ, but yet our physical IQ is so depleted and it's so far separated from each other. And it's again just quite scary to know how far we've got to come up into ourselves to meet not the requirements, but the healing for the of all. You know, it's crazy, mate.
Yeah, I don't believe that we need to be healed anymore. I just think we need to change our focus. I really do. I From all the science that I've learned, it's we're creating what we're looking at. And the more we focus on healing what was never broken, the more we're just gonna get stuck. And it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to step into a primary creator identity in your life. It is
Yeah,
uncomfortable as fuck. And
yeah, it
creation
is.
is creation. It's messy. It's
Yeah.
left me bloody. It's left me cracked open. It's left me so excited. It's left me just beautifully broken in
Mm.
in ways of just letting those things go that I never needed to. Like they were just
Yep.
self-imposed from my experience, self-imposed other people's instructions that weren't even mine. And
Yep.
and that's just that to me just made so much sense. And I think if we can just start doing that with ourselves, and again, just really get to the meat of if you leave with one question to play around within your brain, to start focusing to start flexing your focus in a new way, is what would I love to create?
Mm.
What would I love to create? And am I giving
Mm.
myself permission to create it? Most likely, probably not in the beginning.
Yeah.
And then consent. Are you saying yes when you mean yes? Are you owning your fucking yes? And are you owning your no? Most people aren't.
Exactly.
I can't tell you how many people
Correct.
I tell me they're going to show up. 99 out of 100 don't show up, but one does because
Yeah.
one's owning their yes. When they say yes, they mean
Yeah.
yes. When they say no, they mean no. I don't care what it is, just own it. And then surrendering to this wild, super conscious ride that when we make the shift from creating from the oldest version of our past self, and now we're updating our GPS, and now our GPS is going to someplace new, and we don't actually know how we're going to create it. All the fear is going to come up, all the things are going to come up, and then how to not heal it, not fix it, but learn these little tools to start retraining your brain, to start reconditioning your nervous system and training your nervous system and your unconscious that what you desire is safe to have. And you can do
True. Amen.
in 15 minutes a day. It doesn't have
Yeah.
to take a lifetime of healing. It's just creating a new flex in your focus. And in this society, we have just been, oh, you're ADHD, you're neurodivergent, you're spicy brain, you're whatever, blah, blah, blah. All of these diagnoses have become our identities.
Mm.
And if we just step into what's actually true, like we are
Yeah.
actually the creative force that lives inside of us, like that just
Thank
wants
you.
to expand.
Totally. Totally. Totally.
Like
Exactly. I
that's,
couldn't agree more.
that's what we are. Like let's just
Yeah.
start from there and then give ourselves surrender. And I'll give you an example of you don't know how it's going to show up. So I launched my human development company. I spent 2 weeks prettying up both of my websites, leveled them the fuck up. They look absolutely gorgeous. Super excited. My first nonprofit client is blind. All the messaging, all the beautiful website, he fucking can't see it. I was like, you're pretty funny.
Straight up.
You're pretty
Straight up.
funny. You don't know how it's going to happen. That doesn't mean you're
Yeah.
going the wrong way. And so you have to
Yeah.
learn that surrender. And
Yeah.
then when you build that self-trust in yourself, guess what? Now you get to play with somebody else who's built that self-trust too. And you go, okay, what do we want to create together?
Yeah. Yeah.
What do we?
Yeah.
And then I hand them a spicy audio and go, I want to create this. Like that I want to create.
That's
Like,
it.
this I want to create.
Gorgeous.
So, we're just interesting. We're so interesting. We're so interesting as people. It's so interesting that we go through this just to live our lives,
Yeah.
just to experience ourselves in this life, in this vehicle. Like we go through
Yeah.
these things. It's just so interesting.
Yeah. It really is. Yeah. It's a very unique periscope we're looking into.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Well, I absolutely love having a conversation with you. I am so excited.
Same.
I'm going to send you this app. I'm going to send you. So here's what you have to do is you have to pick out one too, because we'll first do one that I pick out and then we'll do one that you pick out. And so you can pick
Sure.
out anything.
Yep.
And then we'll come on and we'll do the I don't need a book boyfriend, I need an audio king, and then we'll talk about it. And if you know
Yep.
of anybody else that wants to get on and jump on, that wants
Yeah.
to listen to it, the more views we can get on it, the better, because the more we can
Great.
start just rationalizing that these flavors are okay.
Yeah.
You know, like it's okay.
Yeah.
And is it uncomfortable to talk about at first? Absolutely. Yeah, some of the
Yeah.
stuff I will blush. I will blush a lot. But it's fun.
I look forward to it. No, it sounds gorgeous, darling. It sounds gorgeous. So
Well,
thank you.
thank you so much for being on. I absolutely love
Thank
having
you.
you on as a guest. And you guys, I just want to leave you with this, as I do every podcast that we do, is to remember that you are the creative force within, and you get to decide. You get to decide what you would love to create. And
Yeah.
whether you're here to be a little bit spiritual, or you're here to be a little bit kinky, or you're here like me to be a fuck ton of both, because creation is one of the fucking kinkiest things that you will ever do. Lead
Mm,
with love, my friends. Lead with love.
mm.
And in case nobody told you today, I see you, I feel you, and I love you. And you are not alone. Thank you so much for being a guest tonight, hun. All right, you guys.
Thank you.
Bye.